now and speak to political analyst Professor Sipho Seepe. Prof, thank you so much for your time. We just got off the line with Advocate Buswe Mkhwebane, who says that she's written to the president. She's given, they're giving him a 5 p.m. deadline to lift the suspension. If that doesn't happen, she's heading to the courts to challenge the suspension because she believes that the president is conflicted in this matter. She's right, according to you?
Well, there's a court judgment which involved the former president, where the issue of conflict was actually raised. And in that, the court felt that the president is not allowed to take certain actions because of that conflict. So I see the office using that precedent to say, when you are conflicted on a matter like this, it is better that you do not make a decision that works in your favor. At the moment, we know that there is a suspicion that of all the constitutional structures in our country, the only one that appears to be or is seen by a majority of people to be independent is this office. So some will see the president as preempting what may be an adverse judgment against him. So the timing itself is problematic, but also, as the perpetrator herself indicates, that the matter had been with the president for a number of, for almost 2 years since the panel came up with its decision. Then suddenly he received the questions and he moves with great speed. So there's an issue of suspicion there, but nonetheless, I think her lawyers are best would advise her in terms of what action she must actually take. But she has already written to the president to say, these are my issues, and in some of the assertions they make, they are either flawed in terms of being incorrect or they are not in keeping with the law. But it will be a matter between the lawyers to quarrel over that.
And Prof, as we then move on the side of the screen, there's breaking news now saying that National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula has declined the request from the ATM UDM for parliamentary action against the president. Your reaction to that before we get into the issues around Phala-Phala?
Well, I mean, what you are having with the parties, some could be political opportunism, but some could be also saying, when matters are before the courts, you expect that there at least be respect, and these are issues that are raised. But that is, as far as Parliament is concerned, whether that affects the president, it will be a debate. The president himself has been very quick to indicate that as far as he's concerned, he is comfortable that the action that he has taken conforms to what or does not act, is not acting out of errors in a sense of undermining the rule of law or even what is allowable in terms of his office.
Let's talk about the president's handling of this issue when it comes to the burglary at his farm. We saw him coming out in Limpopo saying that he did not steal taxpayers' money, and he looked quite comfortable there. When you look at his address, there was some giggling here and there, also going to Parliament, talking about it and speaking to journalists as well on the sidelines of Parliament, saying that he's allowing processes to unfold, but you argue that he's worked himself into a corner. How so?
Well, first of all, the president was talking to people whose duty is to protect their leader. When the ANC is on attack, what we know members to be keen on doing is to rally around their leader. And it is people like Gwede Mantashe who had actually said that any attack on the leader of the ANC is an attack on the ANC. So he was talking to people who see themselves as duty-bound to support their president. But when you listen to him, he was also responding to a question that was not asked. The issue was not that anybody stole, that he stole money. It was about the money being stolen from him. So he was actually deflecting attention to a question that he should have answered, that Mr. President, did you report that the money was stolen from you? And it was millions of rands or millions stash of money in foreign currency. Those are the questions that he should have responded to, but he deflected that. So that was a hogwash, if one were to put it much more stronger. He was not answering a question that should have been, that the parliamentarians all parties have actually raised the same question. But what is very clear, and which is what the parties seem to be having a consensus on, is that this is not going to go away by a president who pretends to be comfortable when he is avoiding the issue. And even when he talks about due process, people would ask, where was due process 2 years ago? Because due process is, in terms of a law, that when a crime is committed, the people who are who hold positions as he does are expected to report the crime. So he failed to do that. Secondly, when President told the people that he is a farmer and this money comes from selling, we expect the president, and the Constitution expects the president, to be seized with matters of the state, not to deal with private issues. Section 96 of the Constitution is very clear that the president or members of cabinet are not expected to be engaged in any paid work. And when right now we are seized, and this has become almost international because it involves also another president. And these are not matters of the state. These are matters that has to do with the president's private interest. So when you look at the Constitution, the president has already violated the Constitution. So there are issues of constitutionalism, but there are issues that have to do with criminality. One is the issue of kidnapping people, and the second is also torture. All these are things that have been put out there, and covering is also a problem. There's an issue of SARS. If you trade in foreign currency, to what extent have you disclosed this to Treasury, and Treasury have given you a go-ahead? These are issues that the president cannot simply run away from. As the leader of the Freedom Front Plus put it, that the president is facing a compounding problem or a compounding crime, in a sense that there are several violations that the opposition parties and that we as citizens would like to have answers on.
And talking about answers and the citizens, because there have been calls for the president to address the nation on this matter, even if, investigations continue. Would you say the fact that the nation still has not had an address from the president when it comes to this matter, does it signal that it's the party before the state?
Well, this is not even about the party. This is more about him. Because if he can be shown to have violated any of our laws, then the NPA has a duty to charge him. And we know that the NPA has been very excitable on some cases that were flimsy. The NPA was very quick to charge somebody like Carl Niehaus on simple things like a breach of protocols, COVID protocols. But what the president is facing is much more serious. So what people are interested in seeing is this NPA that is so keen even when the case is not ready, because we also have cases that are dragging for 4 years where the NPA says we're not ready, whether they'll do the same with regard to what all opposition parties are saying. Mr. President, you have failed your office. You have violated a series of laws, and these are the laws that were making it easy for the NPA to see that they've been violated. And instead, he hides behind due process. And people are saying, where was due process 2 years ago? Because if he had followed due process, he would not have called or allegedly called the president of Namibia, who seems to be in trouble and deflecting. And in his response, he does not deny that he received a call from President Ramaphosa. He simply says that he is not guilty of any violation of the laws of Namibia. But he acknowledges that there were suspects, but those are the issues that would be investigated. But what is necessary here is the bodies that are independent. That's why the Holomisa and others have said, Mr. President, so that you don't interfere with the process like it is done with many other people, why don't you step aside? Because for as long as you are there, no career politician or a policeman would be willing to investigate the sitting president. So these are the fears. And hence, to remove those fears, common sense says step aside. But he will not step aside because there's so much invested in that position.
Prof, we have about 20 seconds. As a final question then, last week we saw the suspended Secretary General S. Magashule saying that there appears to be a law for some and a law for others, and come December he's going to be contesting any position that the branches nominate him for. Was this then as a direct response to what you've just alluded to when it comes to the president, as you say that he will not be stepping aside?
Well, definitely what Magashule was saying is that if you look at the name of the game here, is to make sure that certain people are charged and then removed. Because what the ANC has actually done, it is now using the NPA to determine who becomes the leader of the ANC. The ANC has failed to deal with its own political discipline. So what they are doing is to abuse the state organs to advance political interests. So it is just unfortunate that the NPA itself has also become embroiled in factional battles of the ANC. But what people are also saying is that we want to see this NPA that has been very keen and excitable and eager to charge people on lesser crimes. Will it be ready to say, right, Mr. President, yeah, there's a violation?
Thank you very much, Prof, for your time. Do appreciate it. That is Professor Sipho Seepe, a political analyst. And also remember, here on the show, we were meant to speak to Justice and Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamula, but unfortunately he's had to reschedule pending a very important meeting that he needed to go to, an urgent one this afternoon. So we'll continue then to monitor that and bring you that interview at a scheduled date.